Hey yo, hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Chapter Chumps, a reading podcast where three guys read a book and then talk about it. We're your chumps, here to talk some chapters. As ever, I'm your host. My name is Connor. I am joined as ever by my two co-hosts, Connor and Josh. And today...
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning, San Diego.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Good morning, America.
Yep.
Or should I say good morning?
I'm Robin
Okay.
Roberts. This is Good Morning America.
All right.
I'm
Robin
George
Roberts?
Stephanopoulos. This is Good Morning America.
All right. Okay.
Those are real people that hosted
Yeah,
the show.
you're both of them. You're both of them. You're Robin Roberts and George Stephanopoulos combined.
I am Legion.
Yep. Today on the podcast, we are going to be talking about chapters 5 and 6 of Ursula K. Le Guin's The Left Hand of Darkness. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still waiting to figure out what is the right hand doing.
Yeah, good question. I think we know what it's doing.
Well, good point. Good point, because they like to talk a lot about perverts in this book, don't they?
That hand is firmly down the pants.
Yep. Maybe
said.
so. Maybe so. You know. I do think that we're slowly piecing this puzzle together. Who knows where our conversation will take us today, but I would say there's some more clarity in like our understanding of the world and the plot here with these two chapters read, and that's great. Here we are, nearly 100 pages into the book.
Should it be that far?
Almost.
Yeah, 94.
Yeah. Look at us all with the same page numbers in our
Pretty cool.
in our books. So yeah, how we been, boys? How's it
I've
going?
been better.
You've been
It's been a
better.
hectic couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I've seen better days. Isn't that a song?
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Same
George
here.
Stephanopoulos classic. Same here. Yes.
Yeah, every week is worse than the last.
Yeah. Is that ever going to change, or is it just a constant?
Oh no, it's just it's just progressive. It's which is okay. It's just life, you know.
Yeah, right. You get to a certain point, and then every day is worse.
I mean, all of us now, I will say, all of us now are in our mid-30s.
Early 30s, thank you.
We're all in our mid-30s. We have crossed the threshold. We're not. I mean, early 30s is what? That's 30. Then once you're 31, you're in your mid-30s.
You just get 1 year of early 30s.
I think so. Well, that's how it feels, at least to me.
Yeah. Honestly, 32 might be mid 30s, and I think 33 onward is late.
Middle aged.
Yeah.
I think mid 30 starts in late 33.
Oh, that's not good for me. That's not good for me, Josh.
I'm sorry. It's your fault for being born first.
Yeah. No. I know.
Why'd you do that though? Like I've actually always been meaning to ask you.
I thought that it would kind of give me a head start and that I'd be able to get a leg up on the two of you, but
yeah. Well, the funny thing is like I asked your mom once, and like you are premature, but I didn't know just how premature you are. You're actually 2 years premature.
Yeah. Yep.
So you really wanted to get out ahead of us. That was the whole point. Yeah.
Yep. No, I was the most premature baby anyone's ever been.
I mean, your mom hadn't even met your dad yet. It's like we don't know. No one knows how it happened.
Yeah, no, it's a real Benjamin Button situation.
Yeah.
Who was really also a real person who has hosted Good Morning America.
Yes, Benjamin. But I mean, well, he did when he was older, and he will again when he's younger. You know.
Yeah. Benjamin Button is kind of like the millennial Forrest Gump.
Yeah, kind of. Because Can you believe he was played by Brad Pitt?
I can't believe that because it was Matt Damon.
It was not Matt Damon.
It was Matt Damon who was.
No, it was not. It was Brad Pitt.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, Benjamin Button was played by.
Oh, Benny Button.
Benjamin Button was played. Benjamin Button is Taylor Swift's newest cat.
All right, mystery solved.
Okay, there we go. We're all good. It was Brad Pitt.
It was Matt Damon. Yep. No,
I'm seeing it right now. No,
I know.
Was,
I looked it up. It was Matt Damon.
Brad Pitt played. I'm looking it up right now. I'm going to share the fucking screen. I'm going to share the fucking screen right now.
It just you might be looking at like an AI.
No, it's not. This is the real deal. This is the real deal.
We live in a wacky world, you know.
Yeah, here we go. See, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Ready?
I don't see anything. What's this? What are you about to show me?
Benjamin Button.
Hard to see.
Wikipedia. Look who that guy is. That's Brad Pitt.
Okay. Well,
see?
Does Matt Damon like age forwards or backwards into Brad Pitt? Does he become?
No,
Brad
it's not. It's not like a regeneration thing.
Matt Damon.
It's not like a regeneration thing.
Okay.
All right.
Have you ever seen the Curious Case of Benjamin Button?
Yes, I saw it in theaters actually.
Okay, so that proves it to me that this is the millennial Forrest Gump, and you're the proof. You're the fucking millennial sap who went to go see.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding.
Matt Damon's defining role.
Shut the fuck up! Stop. You're pissing me off right now.
Yeah, I could tell.
You're pissing me off right now. I know what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. You're Brad lighting me.
You're Brad lighting me. Well, you're really Matt lighting me, but
yeah. Is that what I should be? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that you would make it funnier if I like stumbled over it. So
yeah, no, that's what I'm here for.
Thanks for that. Anyways, Josh, did you ever see the Curious Case of Benjamin Button?
I have not, but I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I know the premise of like the guy aging backwards, but I don't care much about the who's in it right now, and it's never really interested me aside from the premise.
I was just curious.
Should be enough to go watch it, but I've been busy.
Yeah, well, that's what drew me into it. I was like, that was right up my alley. A guy aging backwards, like that just sounded so cool. And I did really enjoy it. I did really enjoy it when I watched it. I don't know how well it holds up, but
yeah, I think they should make an anime out of it. Be cool to get like anime. Benjamin Button.
Well, that's kind of already Dragon Ball, the new Dragon Ball series, right? They turn back to kids, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, great point. You know, I guess nothing else needs to be said about that.
Beat you to it.
Yeah.
Every idea has been anime-ified already.
Yeah. That's right. Soon we will all be anime.
Yes.
There's already a filter for that.
We are already, all of us, anime. What is a man but anime waiting to happen? All right.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about The Left Hand of Darkness.
Already? We're only 8 minutes in.
Yeah, already.
All right. All right.
Oh, no. Right. You have the floor. I mean, if there's something you want to... It's just, I don't know how much time we have to talk today.
No, we're good. Let's move on.
And I think regardless of our schedule, I think 8 minutes is maybe the perfect amount of
yeah. Let's try and keep the rest of the podcast 8 minutes too. We'll just
we'll see how we do. You know, we'll just see. We'll just see how we do. So where we last left off, the last group of 2 chapters, I think is when Genly speaks with the king and that whole thing. And then Genly's like, okay, I guess I'm not getting anywhere in Karhide, but I'm not banished. So I'm just going to go like wander somewhere else. And then we get this whole parable of the ruler who like goes to the foretellers. And I think that sets up nicely into this pair of chapters here, because chapter 5, we pick back up with Genly, and the chapter starts kind of detailing how he determines where to go and the like day-to-day kind of necessities of his travel and figuring out the journey and what it's like. But he eventually ends up it's like Kerm or something, R-E-R maybe, something like that. And he makes it to, I think it's just like this neighboring, I don't even know if it's a kingdom because I'm still not totally sure about like all the definitions and things like that. But I think it's like a neighboring kingdom essentially to Karhide. And he doesn't even really care about being in the kingdom. He's like, oh, hey, I'm pretty much here because I think the foretellers are living in like a forest nearby, and he finds the foreteller village. And so he's like, hey, I'm dumb as shit. Like, I don't know anything. And all the foretellers are like, dude, you're in. You are so in. Like, let's go hang out.
Stop bragging.
Yeah, right. And so, yeah, I guess finishing up the summation there. Genly lives amongst the foretellers for I think a handful of weeks or months, and then we get a foretelling sequence where Genly himself asks a question. We see the foretelling like group experience. It's pretty wild, and the question is answered, and our chapter kind of wraps up after that. So what do we make of chapter 5? Connor, do you want to start? What was
sure.
it like rereading this chapter for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I say every episode, my memory is shot. So I mean, like very much I remember like the broad brush strokes of this book, if that. And so yeah, it's kind of just like deja vu or something, reading it again.
Yep.
But I really enjoyed it. I like really enjoyed because the first half of the chapter really is just detailing Genly's trip to this region, and we get a lot of descriptions of the environment and of how they travel. I thought their car travel is very different than the Terrans or even our which I think the Terran and Earth societies are meant to be kind of parallel, and so that was interesting. They move at a slower pace, and that is really frustrating to Genly, because he where he comes from, you got to go fast, 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 and that's that's America in a nutshell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, obviously the kind of psychosexual process of the foretelling is fascinating. It definitely, I don't know, it like I say, Dune vibes a little bit, but the description of this process I think is even more detailed than like a spice or two from Frank Herbert. So where Frank I think is a little bit more skittish on the details. Ursula kind of goes there, which is cool. Still not, it's entirely graphic, but there's enough there to that it's titillating. So to for lack of a better word, yeah, I liked it a lot. And then of course the answer is found at the end, and the answer happens to be yes. Gethin will join the Ecumen within the next 5 years, which is very exciting for Genly.
Josh is looking at you like he thought you were going to say 42, I think.
Well, yes. So that's that. Of course, I thought well, there is obviously connection, a Hitchhiker's connection, because before Genly goes into visit with the foretellers, um, he's told like, oh, there are some questions that they can't answer. And one of those happens to be, what is the meaning of life? In fact, there was an instance where they were asked that, and that ended quite badly for them. Yeah, there were some murders, and yeah, deaths at the at just the thought of that process. So yeah, I immediately saw that and was like, yeah, we're gonna talk about this for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, so much time could have been saved if they had read Hitchhiker's Guide. Like if they just delved into
Lost
Earth's
media.
past, and
Hmm.
we could have saved some lives there.
Yeah, that's true. I do like the idea of it's like, they kind of had to figure out how foretelling works and like what what kind of questions can or cannot be asked. Like, and it kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, like the way that people think about early man, and it's like, oh, can you eat that berry? And then one guy was just like, well, I mean, I'm gonna eat it, is what's gonna happen. And then like, yeah, that's just how you find out, either Phil lives or he dies. And I think that's like sort of the process that they're describing here too, where it's like
it's always Phil though.
It is. It's always Phil, that motherfucker. Because it seems like whenever they figured out foretelling, I think there was kind of just this period where people were like, I think you could just do whatever you want, and then eventually they're like, no, there's kind of like some hard and fast rules to this process. And it's a good way to cut off. But even, I don't know, like, obviously when you have something in your book like this where you can essentially know the future or get answers to questions that the answerer doesn't even have to be aware of existing, naturally you're going to be like, doesn't it feel like this could be abused within the book? And yet I think Ursula goes a long way to like describing not only why that's not the case for certain questions, but also like the culture of foretelling makes it so it's not done in such a way. Like Gen Lee can't really wrap his head around it. He's like, why doesn't the king just do this? And then the foretellers are like, well, that's stupid, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it's also a very expensive process. He doesn't spend like 2 rubies just to answer this. I don't want to say simple, but small-ish question, or simple but not quite small question. I had that backwards.
No, yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's yeah. I mean, for them, like simplicity is the name of the game, right? It's like they very consciously like don't want to complicate it. They don't want the answers or whatever information generally. Even when they talk about mind speech at the end, which is a whole other conversation we can have. It's not anything that what's the guy, the weaver, what's his name, what's the guy's name?
I was saying it like Fax.
Yeah, we'll call him Fax. He's just not interested in exploring that right now.
Right. I was kind of wondering about the what did you just call it? The
mind speech.
Mind speech. Yes. Obviously sometimes we have to take longer breaks in between our readings, and unfortunately that's happened here. I was getting to this point in this chapter where I was like, has mind speech been mentioned and I forgot? Or is this like the first mention? I had no idea he could do this.
I think it was briefly mentioned before he went to go see the king, like offhandedly.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't surprised when I saw it, but we didn't have enough information on what exactly it was until this chapter. So I think this is more the introduction.
Yeah, I think Josh is right. I think it was brought up offhandedly, but yeah, this is an ability that Gen Lee has, and it's a common enough ability where he comes from.
Yeah, I guess it I don't know, it's interesting to me, and it's like, yes, of course, even if you had mind speech and you could like telepathically communicate with someone, the idea of a group of people being able to answer any question or like do a foretelling is still amazing. But I kind of just thought that up until this point, Genly was like quote unquote like a regular dude, and so like the whole foretelling thing on Gethin is even more incredible. But then it kind of turns out it's more of like a parallel ability, you know. It's like, oh yeah, that's good. So you can see the future and answer any question, and I can read minds. Like,
yeah.
I just forgot about that. I don't know.
So what did you think of the title of the chapter, Taming of the Hunch, or Taming of Hunch? What was it?
Yeah,
How long did it take you to figure out?
The domestication of Hunch, I think it is.
That.
Yeah.
Because when you say it like that, Josh, it makes me think of the taming of Smeagol.
Right. And when I first read the chapter title, I thought we were going to meet a character named Hunch, and that they were some feral entity.
Yeah.
I was about halfway through the actual foretelling.
Where's Hunch?
Before I realized, like, oh, they mean like taming the idea of a hunch to use it for better understanding of the universe.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really like how Genly kind of thinks about that. You know, like as far as like a hunch and kind of taking that to its natural conclusion, the farthest point you can go with it.
It feels very similar to Douglas Adams, like the improbability drive and stuff like
that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, and then it goes kind of back to Connor's thought about like parallel, invention or parallel sciences development. Yeah, like where yeah they develop the ability to use mind speech, and while all these guys over here found out a way to foretell things like and that very much firmly plants it in like the Dune-ish science fiction realm, where it's like, yeah, this is not a magic thing. These are human abilities that are honed in and trained upon for however long, and just like developed, to an extent that we consider it magic.
Yep. Yeah. No. It's very much in the silo of advanced mental abilities.
Yeah.
And like an advanced like attunement to the universe. Whereas Genly's ability is like, oh, we can use it for direct communications, whereas the Gethin's ability seems to be more of like a passive, like reading of things.
Yeah, sure.
But that's just me trying to rationalize all this insanity.
I did like that they like Genly kind of thinks to himself that I think the foretelling and the mind speech comes from like the same basic or like innate human ability, where Genly's like, oh man, Fax, you'd be like a natural mind speecher. You be like, I think there might even be a word that he uses. It's not like clairvoyant, but I think there's some kind of word that he used to describe like someone who's just like naturally good at mental abilities or whatever. And of course, like they have different vocabulary for these things coming from different worlds, but yeah, I think Genly identifies that the mind speech and the foretelling is really just like branching off of the same, like, I don't know, ability or something within a person, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole domestication of hunch thing, I do think it's cool. I do like that idea. And I was with you, Josh, too, where I took it more literally, but I think eventually one of the characters, Genly or Fax, uses the word hunch in their dialogue, and I was like, like we're talking about
Yeah. That's I think that's exactly when I made that connection.
Right. Which is probably when you're supposed to make it. It's not like it makes perfect sense that she would write it that way. But it's still interesting. I got a few other things here, Josh. It looks like maybe you want to jump in.
No. So it's been like 2 weeks since I read. these chapters, and I just have not had the time.
You gotta take notes, buddy. You just gotta take notes.
There's this one line I just came across again on page 63. Vagueness breeds vagueness. When I think they're talking to Goss, who is Fax's helper, is trying to explain what kind of questions are good questions. I don't know. It just seemed like a good overall statement. Vagueness breeds vagueness.
Yeah.
The language in this chapter was difficult to work through. I remember, because they explain how this foretelling works, and Fax is what is known as a weaver, who seems to just be like controlling all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are the Zanies, who maybe just who are also sometimes called time dividers, who may just be schizophrenic.
Yes.
And the Gethans are very like. Here's the line on page 66. I asked if these two psychopaths could not be cured. Cured, Goss said. Would you cure a singer of his voice? So they seem to have a very relaxed or accepting attitude of mental illness, or what we would currently consider mental illness. Then we have the Kemmerer, and then the pervert. And the pervert's task throughout this whole process seems to be, trying to find the right word here, but
to
influence
keep the Kemmerer aroused.
Yeah, influence, and it sounds like it's very not consensual towards the end of the process.
Oh yeah,
which was uncomfortable, to say the least. But yeah, it's a very strange process, and it's like, why do we, like, I could kind of understand the need for the Zanies and these people who. Like, all right, because they're
no, go on. It's funny that's where we're gonna start, but go on.
Yeah, no. So the Weaver makes sense. The one who's controlling the process and holding everything together as all these different minds interact to answer a question out of the ether. The Zanies kind of made sense to me, or I could rationalize them in my reading as these are people whose minds just work differently, and that gives them some advantage to reading whatever they end up reading to get their answer. The people who are just, for lack of a better term in this moment, in heat.
Yep.
That addition to the question, to answer the question, just never made sense to me in this reading. So I'm just curious about your thoughts on this process and the people involved and why they were there.
Yeah. You mind if I start, Connor?
No, go for it.
Okay, so
without spoiling Doom.
No, don't worry. I can do that. Well, okay. I think the first thing is like, so Fax and the other foretellers, they have this whole idea of like unlearning and sort of a desire for ignorance. And so really what I'd want to start with is I think you're meant to accept that they do not know how this process works. And so I do have my own theories, and I'm going to share them in a moment. But I think ultimately the characters and Ursula K. Le Guin herself, I'm assuming, are kind of just like presenting you with this like very bizarre and out there concept. And you're kind of just meant to be like, well, it works because they know that they need these things, you know, and
right.
All the roles that the people play within the foretelling group. Like, yes, Connor's right. It's like, ultimately, I think you're meant to understand that there is a scientific explanation, but it's treated more like some sort of weird, like medieval, I don't know, like magical society. And even just the names of the roles feel like tarot cards, you know?
Yes.
That's what I was trying to pull back to. For some reason, I went to like playing card suits.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of like the Kemmerer and the Pervert as like the Jester's equivalent.
Yes,
but no, tarot cards is way more of a better analogy.
But it is like that. And you know, again, like at the end of the process, Genly's trying to sort of figure it out, and I think he's reflecting on it, and he's like, wow, you know, Fax must have an incredible mental ability to be able to hold all these people or like influence them with their mental strength, you know, throughout this and Fax is just like, yeah, man, you know, sometimes I just do that. Isn't it nuts? You know, that's obviously very reductive, but kind of tying it all back together. I think the real truth is that there is not an explanation. However, I kind of took it as, I think that like sexuality is obviously very important within this book and within the society and the Kemmering and all that. And so I think that like the people coming together that do the foretelling are in some ways like meant to be representative of facets of like humanity on Gethin. And so like it wouldn't be true to like the Gethin human experience to omit like sexuality because it is as important as it is. And like it's like somehow with this group of like 9 people or whatever it is who have to gather for a foretelling to be done, I kind of took it as like they are meant to be representative of like the expression of what it means to be Gethin, or like the facets of humanity in some way.
I was about halfway there too with the like these are the facets of humanity on Gethin. Though that does imply that half the Gethin or a third of the Gethins are literally crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I mean I do I agree with what Connor is saying, but I also think that there is a like, you know, an aspect of like thinking differently. Like these are kind of people who think in with different you know, neural pathways or whatever. So I think the zanies, yes, are that makes sense, but also you know, if you're in heat or in a state of like intense arousal or whatever, you're kind of like at your most primal and most like, you know, endorphins rushing, whatever. Like you're in a state of like heightened uh you know, emotion.
Awareness.
And I think and I think that is like probably very, very important for the process as well. I think there's something valuable in that.
Yeah.
But what about the people right after that point in post nut clarity? Wouldn't they have the clearer picture?
I mean, you might think so, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they haven't discovered post nut clarity yet.
Yeah.
They've just been edging for centuries.
Yeah, they've been edging for centuries, exactly.
Oh my god. It does kind of feel like that's what happens because when like the foretelling process reaches a literal actual climax and Fax is like, yes, you know, and then afterwards Genly's like, so the answer, what he's like, I said it, you know, and so you know, it's interesting how it kind of feels like the answer and the orgasm are the same thing in this moment, you know. So I'm with you there too, Connor, where it's like all of those things have to be connected somehow, and like I think like Fax's role as the weaver and all these different like minds experiencing all these different things, it's kind of like I mean, I guess I imagine in a way of like a microchip, or in like how a computer I think functions, just in terms of how, you know, it's like essentially all these nodes are in conversation with one another, you know, and like they need to be I don't know, I'm going to talk out of my ass if I keep going. But, you know, I think, Josh, you kind of get like maybe the broad idea of what I'm trying to say there, where it's like...
Yeah, like there's a whole, but it's like a there's a network of nodes that are communicating, and eventually one just shunts out an answer.
Yes, yeah. I think that's and I think that's sort of the process that's like meant to be replicated here in this like very bizarre kind of way with these, which is very much like Doom. Where
it makes you wonder what that process looks like without a yes or no answer, though.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, do they reach that climax and someone's just yelling out like stock numbers or something?
Yeah. No, I think they could. Yeah, I think they could. I don't think it always works the way that it does here in how they deliver the answer, but obviously the way that it's set up is like very intentional. So yeah, it was something.
It was something.
Kind of on that topic, I kind of think that Genly has a thing for facts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Fax is referred to as like the most beautiful person he's ever seen, like more than once in this chapter. That's all. Like, I'm kind of wondering if, I know that this is going to sound crazy, but as I was reading through these chapters, I was wondering if somehow we're going to get like a very strange, almost love triangle between Genly, Estroven, and Fax. And I don't know if that's like way out there, but you know, seeing in the next chapter, Estroven obviously is not out of the story, and Fax, who knows what their role is going to be, but I just wanted to throw it out there. That's all.
Yeah, my impression was that did not click with me when I was reading. I don't think I picked up on the most beautiful description when I was reading, because I don't know. He gently keeps describing every Gethin he comes across as having both male and feminine traits, and whenever he focuses on the feminine, it tends to be more of a
ass and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
When it tends to focus on the feminine traits, it does seem to lean towards attraction. In at least my impression with it.
Yeah. No.
So
no,
nothing
right.
stood out when he started describing Fax. What did stand out to me, when you first meet Fax, he's standing on like a cliff or something. I'm imagining him like standing on a cliff, just like weathering the storm. It wasn't actually storming, but just existing as like a statue almost. And then like a few hundred feet down, there's another guy doing the same thing, just wearing like red instead of blue.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just imagining the two of them just like old monks, just staring off at the horizon, just forgetting everything, I guess is what they're doing.
Yeah.
But there was one point where I misread a bit, and I don't remember where it is, but it gave me an impression for a moment that Fax didn't actually cast a shadow. So I went back to that first description to see if there was actually a shadow being cast by him and the other guy a few hundred feet down, but it doesn't actually say that. I just misread a point. But it was weird how the idea that these people who are trying to unlearn and like unexist almost, who are trying to become more in tune with the universe, are maybe not casting shadows. It's weird how that clicked in my head and like seemed acceptable, but it was like, wait a minute, is that true?
Right.
Because the idea of them, like, I don't know, almost like the Jedi becoming one with the Force, where they kind of fade away. That's kind of where I was getting at with that.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's a Star Wars connection.
Yes, I knew it was going to happen. No, I get that, and even in the next chapter, chapter 6, one of the characters uses like a shadow, I don't know, like as figurative language, or yeah, and that seems to be part of like the Gethin vernacular, and it, you know, this whole idea of like with the foretellers striving for like unexistence or unlearning or unknowing. It's like, yes, very Buddhist, I agree. And it made me consider, like, I don't know how important that religion is to to I guess to like the rest of the people of the planet, and even in a way where like what am I trying to say? Kind of like, oh, actually, I need a second. Hold on.
I think he's got his oven delivery guy showing up right now.
I did hear a voice in the background wondering what that was.
Yeah, he said his oven was delivered, but someone else is coming to install it.
That's weird. Usually the people who deliver it would install something
yeah,
an appliance
and
like that.
I was like, Connor, why can't you install it yourself?
Though I guess it would depend on whether or not he has a gas or an electric range.
Yeah.
If it's a gas, they may require like a specialist to do it. Electric range is just plug it in.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
We'll have to ask him when he gets back because I've only ever really cooked with electric stoves and ovens.
Yeah, I only use microwaves, so.
Which would be electric, but not the point.
Just joking. I'm more of an air fryer kind of guy, you know.
I'm here. Give me just 1 second.
All right, he's here. Just give him 1 second. Josh.
I usually use my toaster oven most of the time, actually.
Well, toaster ovens are convenient, and yeah, they're
especially
easy.
when you're just cooking for one. It's like
True.
Just doing it. It's way easier to heat up a toaster oven as opposed to the whole oven when you just need like a toaster oven's worth of French fries.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've been on a bad run of eating out. I gotta stop that. It's been, you know, I keep on
it is
saying
cheaper
next
to cook your own food.
It is, yes.
So
one day I'll learn.
Oh, we were talking about whether or not you had a gas or an electric oven, and then just kind of went off on a tangent on how we cook our food.
Okay, but is it recording or?
It's recording.
Yes, we're still live.
Okay, it's gas.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought.
Wait, are you
did
saying
they need like specialists to install it or something because it was gas or?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're in here now installing it. Yeah.
Did you want to invite them on the podcast just to discuss the process?
No, it's okay. I really think you should have just stopped. Did Josh just?
Josh just left.
Yeah. So you're gonna like cut out the last 5 minutes, right? Like
it wasn't 5 minutes.
3 minutes, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Not even 3. Not it's like 2.5, maybe.
I would still cut it out because I was going like I was like, you know, it'd be very easy to just pick up.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. Josh is back and waving at me. All right, here we go.
Hey, sorry, my VPN kicked back in and I forgot I'd left it off. So
no worries. All right, Connor, continue.
I was just gonna say that the religion of like the not even a religion, but like I didn't realize the ways in which it feels like it's connected to a lot of other facets of the Gethin life, and so like even I think the palace in Karhide is referred to as the unpalace, and it just seems like that kind of idea of like the un prefix as like the meaning that carries is applied to many other things, even people who are not foretellers themselves. Like it's important, you know.
I missed the palace being called the Unpalace.
Yeah, I mean, I could be thinking of when they get to Rur. Maybe it's the neighboring like palace, but there definitely is an Unpalace. They talk about it somewhere. So
it's where the Unking lives.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, I don't know, and it's like a very different idea of power. Like generally, there was this one passage I wanted to look at real quick about facts. I think it's towards the end of the chapter, page 74. Oh, that's what I was thinking of it, because that unprefix. So page 74, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the bottom of the page, it says, when he looked at me with his clear, kind, candid eyes, he looked out at me of a tradition 13,000 years old, a way of thought and way of life so old, so well established, so integral and coherent as to give a human being the unself-consciousness, the authority, the completeness of a wild animal. And so, like, unself-consciousness is a great term, but it's like the opposite of the way that a person like Estraven was described by Genly. Like, And I just think that's cool because like when Genly was talking about Estroven, like Estroven kind of represents like concentrated power and authority, and the way that like he expresses that at all times through his mannerisms. And meanwhile, Thax, who's like trying to unlearn and undo all those things, Genly sees them as like, akin to, like they say, a wild animal who has none of those like customs or understandings about itself or ideas. And it just, I don't know, it feels like there's like this spectrum of like two very opposite ends of like power and expressions of power on Gethin, and like Genly's kind of observing those things. Like, that's it though. I just want to throw that out there.
The paragraph right after that, where Fax is talking about the unknown, the unforetold, the unproven, and how it's what life is based on. Ignorance is the ground of thought. Unproof is the ground of action. And he goes on how to explain if it was proven that there was no God, there would be no religion. But also if it was proven that there is a God, there would still be no religion. So
yeah.
Interesting concept. I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around wrapping my head around the unprefix unthing. So it's a bit challenging. I'm sure with more chapters I'll start to get the hang of it.
Yeah.
The unself-conscious makes me think of like out-of-body experience though, but that's clearly not what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it does feel rooted in like Eastern, philosophy. Spirituality and philosophy. Yes, and I mean Ursula Le Guin herself is she translated the Tao Te Ching or whatever it's called, which is like people who follow the Tao, intently. I think a lot of this is based off of that, maybe Taoism.
Gotcha.
Yes, essentially.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I was just gonna say most of my exposure to Taoism it comes from the Overly Sarcastic Productions version of Journey to the West, so I don't know much about it.
Yeah, well, me neither. I was just gonna say, or like add, because I do think the concept of like the and all that. Yeah, it's not it doesn't lend itself to being like readily understood, and that's part of the point. I like this whole idea of like Nusith or whatever, where it's pretty much just like who knows, or like it doesn't matter,
It's like the verbal equivalent of a shrug.
Yeah. And that seems to be kind of like the answer to a lot of things. If you were to like question these ideas and concepts for too long, sooner or later, one of the characters would just be like, well, Nusith, it's like your questions is doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
Which does not mean that the questions that we're asking on the podcast don't matter. I think it's worth asking them. It's just more like
they don't matter at all.
It's just more like like at a certain point, it feels like even in the text, it's kind of like the understanding of it breaks down, and you kind of just have to roll with it a bit. That's all.
I think that's right.
What else about this chapter, if anything? I have several notes still down here I could go through, but
kind of briefly mentioned the journey at the beginning of the chapter. I don't know, that part kind of helped reel me in at the beginning of this when I sat down to read, because it felt kind of like an Arctic expedition.
Yeah,
trudging through the snow. I don't want to say ice road truckers, because it feels more like the vehicles they're using are like those like old 60s like giant wheels, or like tracked vehicles that just go through the snow. I was mentioning something similar to the elephant from Halo, that weird vehicle that you could drive around in Halo 3 on that sand desert multiplayer map.
Oh yeah, I remember that thing now. Yep.
Yeah, and there was the little Easter egg of like if you managed to flip it over somehow, it was like press X to flip. Wait, how did you do that?
Yeah.
But I was imagining something like that mixed with like 60s aesthetic of Arctic exploration vehicles, which are very similar. They got giant wheels or tracks, and they look very monolithic, with the cockpit way out front.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just it was a strange visual in my head that was also grounded in a lot of ways that I generally research or have interest in. The part that I really liked was the when they're like at the top of a mountain pass, and down in the valley below they can see little dots of another convoy, and everyone's being like super quiet because there are avalanches everywhere apparently, and it's like 1,000-foot drop, and they mentioned like this one time the driver saw someone go off of like 1,000-foot cliff, but there was no crash at the bottom because there was just so much snow, it just kind of went foof.
Mm-hmm.
And you're left wondering, like, well, did they die or not? But presumably they did, but it's like, it was not like a smash. But also there was like a monastery they pass that's got maybe a dozen people in it, and they get supplies maybe once every 6 months, and that's if nothing goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting lore building on an otherwise uneventful journey through repetitive mountain passes.
Yeah, I definitely think this chapter does a lot to kind of flesh out the world, and yeah, you get this idea of like in between kingdoms, which are just like these pockets of civilization. It's just like these vast stretches of essentially nothing, but like even within the nothing, there's still people that are living there, and it's like, how? But that's a very
life finds a way.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely something that's proven true over and over again on our planet. So, hey, why not on winter, even in the extreme cold?
100%.
Yeah, I did think that was all really cool too, and yeah, it's just like the extreme, the ways that like people need to survive through the extreme environment.
The other thing that is mentioned during that part, again, we are talking about how even though there are political murders and conflicts and everything humanity has faced, nothing has ended up starting or leading to war on Gethin. And this does, kind of interplay with what happens next chapter. Is discussed next chapter. So I think it's worthwhile that it's brought up again briefly here.
Yes.
Noted.
Yeah, I definitely. There was a line on page 51, which is probably what you're talking about, where, it's like Tybe evidently was going to press Karhide's claim to that region, precisely the kind of action which on any other world of this stage of civilization would lead to war. And then there were like just a little further down, Genly remarks, they lacked, it seemed, the capacity to mobilize. They behaved like animals in that respect, or like women. They did not behave like men or ants, is how he writes it. And so, like, ultimately, it's like, so essentially what's being said is that, like, war is a trait of men, or, like, war comes about because of men.
I mean, this is a particularly old-fashioned sentiment. We obviously know now that women can start war just as easily as men can. It's we're equal opportunity here in 2025.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think Kamala Harris was going to put a stop to that.
Well, no, she was bragging. She was bragging about having the most lethal army in the world. So I think that's I think we can squash that misconception.
Yep. R.I.P. Ursula K. Le Guin. You would have loved Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I know that's not true. Like, it's probably a really inflammatory statement.
Oh, yeah. No, it's funny though.
It's all just for the sake of a joke, We have fun here. But anyways, I even like stepping outside of like the whatever, like 60s sexism and all that. Just I was wondering if that mattered at all within the book, because again, like on Gethin, we have these people who are, I think, for like 90% of their life would be considered by, it would like male to an outside observer, to someone like Genly, and then like through Kemmering is when they are able to express themselves or be feminine, like be women in those times. And so I don't know. I guess I was just wondering if like those ideas were going to be like connected or touched on again like later on, because it does seem like the whole war thing is important, like you're saying. Like it seems like that's going to matter more and more, and I just wonder if that is still going to tie into like the gender expression within this book. And it's like, I don't know, is the secret to stopping war just like everyone Kemmering at once? Can that happen?
Yeah.
It can't. I'm sure that's nuts, but so yeah.
Yeah, we will see.
Yeah, that whole thing in the Synoth Valley dispute. Yes, that's important. I think, I'm sorry, I'm just looking through my notes here. I think there's really just two very quick things I want to mention. One is when the foretellers talk about like who is it? I don't know how you'd say it. Mishi or Mish? Mesh?
Yeah, I thought Mish.
Mish? I don't know.
Imagining that in a Taika Waititi's voice as Korg from Thor.
Does he say Mish?
No, I think it's Meek, that bug thing from Thor Ragnarok. It's like,
yeah,
Meek's dead.
Yeah, man. R.I.P. Taika Waititi. You would have loved Mish. But anyway, I just think it's cool. Like in this legend, I think they're kind of like the first person to unlock foretelling, and they just like permanently, they're like in a permanent state of foretelling where they see all past and future like simultaneously for the rest of their life. Pretty cool. I don't know. And the last thing is the Zanies on page 66, Josh. When you were mentioning the Zanies, there's just one thing I noticed that it's like one of those, like, does it matter? Probably not. I really don't know. But on page 66, it says, where does it say this? Oh, okay. It's like the third paragraph down. Two of the foretellers remained withdrawn, unspeaking. One of them lifted his left hand from time to time and patted the floor lightly and swiftly 10 or 20 times, then sat motionless again. And they kind of do this over and over again, the time dividers. I don't know. They're foretelling, or they're part of the foretelling process by using their left hand. Does that matter in this book? I don't know. But I
missed any reference to left hand specifically. I don't know why I keep missing those.
Well, because it doesn't matter. That's why. I know it doesn't matter. But a whole bunch of little things that don't matter might eventually build up to something that does matter or mean something by the end of the book. So there's that. But that's really all I want to say about this chapter. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good chapter. Yeah, really kind of fleshed a lot out, and raised a lot more questions than it answered, I think.
Yes, but in an intriguing way. And I really liked seeing the foretelling process. And so far a lot of our discussion was kind of like, how does this make sense and what actually happens? And I do think like the language that Ursula K. Le Guin uses to write this chapter, a lot of it is kind of hard to parse and get through. And I think it's meant to be like very dense and cryptic and weird. Like you're not supposed to read through this chapter and be like, oh yeah, foretelling, I get it now. like, I think you're supposed to be just as confused as Genly by the time you're done reading this, and you're like, what the fuck did I just see? You know?
Yeah, definitely.
That's fair. That's a fair analysis.
Yeah, it definitely, achieves that, if that was a goal. Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to add? Or, Josh, are you good too? I wasn't sure.
No, again, it's been 2 weeks. I think we covered about everything I remember of worth in this chapter. Not to say everything else is worthless, but yeah, probably not taking notes.
Well, hey, maybe next time, or maybe not. Doesn't matter.
Who knows?
All right. Can we take a quick break before we go on to our next chapter?
Yeah, let's take a tight 2, 5, 4, whatever it ends up being. It's gonna be tight.
I say the opposite of tight.
It's gonna be loosey goosey, babies.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back soon. Well, 8 years ago, I mean, you probably made some money. I made some money on it then, right?
Oh no, absolutely, a couple grand.
Because Connor just got into crypto like last year.
Talking about?
Well, we got into me buying a new car in the near future.
Yeah.
So we kind of veered off into stocks and crypto.
Yeah, I'm just telling him about, it was like 6 months ago or something. You're like, Connor, you came to me. You're like, Connor, there's this thing. It's called crypto. I just bought a bunch of it. I think it would be really lucrative if you dove in and bought some Doge. I think you were telling me to buy Doge coin.
Well, I jumped in on the whole the Hawk Tua coin.
Oh, that was it. So it was actually just a couple months ago. Yeah,
you saw that worked out,
and you did lose a lot of money, but you're really hoping that she's going to bounce back.
Well, honestly, I think that President Trump is going to try to get everyone's money back from the Hawk Tua coin.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, and I mean, I think she was unfairly maligned. I think she deserves a place in the administration, to be honest.
That might happen.
She could be like the press secretary.
Continue this conversation anymore, please. Can we?
That really might happen. So, Josh,
all right.
You're in the stock market kind of deal.
Yeah, I have
the stock market kind of deal.
I've had a portfolio for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Slowly building up. I mostly just hold on to stuff. I don't like day trade or anything like that. Jumped on a meme coin or a meme stock a couple of years ago and did not make any money off that. I was telling Connor. And then I've had some crypto from when that first blew up in 2017 ish that I've just been holding for 6 years. So that's how I'm financing my down payment for my new car.
I see. I just got to mention too, I'm looking at my phone here real quick and I see there's Chump Chatter and Chatter Chumps. Why are there two?
What?
Because you keep on changing the fucking name of the text.
I don't know why it says, Connor,
just
I don't
today.
Do
today you changed it.
All right, can we not
anything?
Can we not talk about our group chat? Because Connor wants to finish up in half an hour.
Who?
And we've been going on for about 15, 20 minutes about non-book stuff, and I'm getting a little tired of it.
Yeah, no, I just want to talk about this chapter and be done.
Yeah. Let's just do it.
All right,
I want to have lunch.
Yeah, me too.
I had a hot dog on our little break. I ate a hot dog.
Was it like already cooked or
hot dog? Hot dog. Yes, it was. No, it was cooked.
So you got an old hot dog?
No, it was fresh, freshly made.
So Cora made you a hot dog?
Yes.
On the stovetop?
No, this goes back to our Josh and I were discussing types of ovens, and it was actually made in the air fryer. It was pretty good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because although we have an oven that does work, we prefer to use the air fryer.
I see.
How's the oven installation going? for a second there, I was telling Josh, I was like, I think they probably just shoved Connor in there and are baking him up for lunch.
Yeah, I mean,
because grocery prices these days are so high. I was like, I don't blame him. You know. All right. Anyways,
I'm sorry. I'm reading something.
Just want to let you know we are still recording. I never stopped recording, so we are just this is all part of the show, folks.
No, I mean you're gonna
edit
all this and the
all
last
part
thing
of the show.
The last thing too. You're gonna have to get rid of that shit.
Nah.
Please do that, because this is like way nuts. It's like way nuts, you know.
Yeah.
Why are you moving this around?
Okay.
Which position do you guys like the best?
What are you doing? What did you do?
He's just moving us around on the screen.
I don't know. I really don't know, man. I feel like my hair's all like messed up now.
Yeah. Looks like shit.
Wait a minute. That's not right. And like it's tough because it's like inverted on the.
Looks really bad.
Yeah, like it doesn't look right, you know.
Nope. That's better. Just leave it. Don't even touch it. Don't leave it.
Hold on a second.
Leave it. Josh, if you were here, I would offer you a hot dog.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But okay. I'm not a quick eater, so
whatever.
I thought I would not have time to eat a hot dog during our break, but apparently I was wrong.
You were wrong, yeah. All right. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Mm-hmm. Chapter 2, we have 24 minutes to get this done. All right.
Let's do it, whatever.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Chapter 6. I think it's like one way into Orgorian, or however you say it.
Yeah, I could not figure out that word.
I don't even think Orgorian's right. It's just how I've been saying it.
I would say, well, I don't know. I'm thinking Orgorin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Orgerin.
Yeah, something like that.
Tangerine. It's like a mix between an orange and a tangerine.
Tangerine Dream.
Yeah, exactly. So this chapter is about Estraven and what happens immediately following the news of his exile, and how he has to journey away from Karhide and decides to go to Orgorian, or however you say it. And he does eventually make it there, and it is not a smooth journey. It's a really rough time for him. And even when he gets there, you know, he has issues with, I don't know, like, essentially if he's legally allowed to be there, and he has to take a series of like odd and demeaning jobs, and then eventually he's kind of discovered by some higher up members of like the governing body of Orgorian, who Estraven has a history with during his time as whatever his role is in Karhide, prime minister or whatever, I don't know.
Big Daddy,
right? The Big Daddy of Karhide. And so those three have a whole big discussion, and that's, you know, the discussion is very interesting. They cover a lot of topics, some of which Connor was kind of alluding to earlier, and I think that's mostly where our chapter wraps up. Is them talking specifically about Genly at the end there.
Yeah,
and the nature of the envoy of the other world.
Connor, do you want to guess quickly who I picture as Estraven?
Sure. I'm gonna guess that you're imagining Estraven to be James Corden.
Holy shit! You read my mind.
Really?
James Corbin himself.
Well, wait, Corbin or Corden?
James Corbin himself.
Okay.
Only ever since we talked about Mr. Corbin, on our other podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, he's perfectly, that's the perfect person, because he's big, bulky, husky, but also kind of feminine, and
yes,
he's got that feminine,
yeah,
attractiveness.
that's right. No, there's
allure about
definitely
him.
there's a feminine beauty to James Corden that I think
Yes.
is often
Yeah.
overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And also like kind of like a sad pudgeness about him.
A sad pudge. Yes, 100%. Very. Yeah. There's some sad. There's some sadness underneath all the
all
meat.
the femininity and
all the feminine meat.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure he's heard that all before. I mean,
yeah, I know, of course.
It's all there for the world to see. Is that really who you were going to say?
Yes, it is.
Because we were just talking about James Corden.
Yes. Yeah.
That is funny. Right.
I knew you would get it.
That is funny. Also, who's the guy who voices Olaf? I feel like that guy.
Oh yeah. Fuck. What's his name? Fuck.
Like I feel like he's also kind of in like the James Corden sphere a little bit.
He is. I can picture his stupid fucking face.
Right, like all of his sad pudge and everything.
Yes,
yeah.
Sad pudge
and his beautiful feminine nature. Yeah. Like it's all there,
It's all there. It's a weird intersection to be in, but but that is a type. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's nothing else to say.
Yeah, that's about it.
Man.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back next week.
Yeah. Connor, do you want to start us off here? Just sharing your thoughts on the chapter, or even learning more about Estervin?
Yeah, I was happy to get back to Estervin. I had been waiting to. I know he's a big part of this book. And like we get him kind of in the immediate aftermath of his exile, kind of frantically trying to get out of town. We see his Kemmering partner briefly make an appearance to kind of make a last ditch effort at helping him, or rekindling things, or there's obviously still love there on both parts, even though it feels like they've been separated for reasons out of their control. And there's a deep rooted history and sadness there between them. But Mr. Corbin goes on, despite that.
Right. It explains the sadness of his pudge.
It explains the sadness of the pudge. Yes. Estervin, he gets over to Orgerin, or however you pronounce it. And yeah, there's like he wakes up in a hospital and is just really hassled by a police officer, or border enforcement agent or whatever, and so that's in the kind of the discussion with the doctor, actually, where he's the different states of his body, like,
oh yeah, that's right,
he like pushes himself when he's in a state that he shouldn't have pushed himself. I forget what exactly they're called, but we kind of get into the physiology or whatever of their
like super exertion.
Yeah, I wrote that down. It's on like towards the end of page 83 and the top of page 84. It's Doth and Thangen.
Yes.
Thangen, yep.
And I did wonder about that, because I was like, are those obviously we know that, like, it seems like the state of their sexuality is called the Kemmering, so it's like, are these like preceding steps to Kemmering, or maybe it's just the ways their body functions.
Are they unique to Gathenians? It kind of seems like it. So that was interesting. Obviously he was in a state where he didn't really he wasn't in control of that, didn't realize he had entered this altered state, and almost killed himself, getting safe.
Although it was kind of funny, because it's like, yeah, maybe the doctor's right, but Estervin didn't think that at all. he just says it because he's just like, I kind of got the impression that this was like kind of a commentary on the doctor had already made his mind up, and Estrevin was like, I don't really think, and he's just like, whatever, sure, you're right, but
that's why you should never trust the doctor. They don't know shit.
Rule 1, the doctor lies.
They're just rule 1, the doctor lies.
And that's true of all doctors, not just ones played by Christopher
Not
Eccleston.
The definitive article. the definitive article. I don't know if I said that right.
Not just Peter Cushing.
Yeah, whoever that is.
You know, he was in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. Oh, trust me. I know Grand Moff Tarkin, buddy.
All right, good. Anyways.
Just having a bit of fun.
He was also the doctor, by the way.
Yeah. But, like, what? Just his voice, right? Or
No. He played the doctor in a movie.
The doctor, yeah.
In back 2 movies, 60s. Actually, in the 60s.
Oh.
Back before, I think it was before Regeneration was really established. He was just playing the doctor.
Yep.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Back when Dalek Mania was happening. Anyways, moving on. Sorry, we could talk about that all day long.
You don't want to talk about Dalek Mania?
Nah.
Okay.
I do, but we should.
That'd be a good podcast title if we didn't already have Tired and Relatively Drunk in Space.
Yeah, well, both are good. We could. We'll see. Anyways, Josh, your thoughts on the chapter or the first half or whatever you want
to. It was less like engaging to me than the chapter 5, but it was not. It's not to say it wasn't completely disengaging. It was interesting seeing the story from a different point of view with Estrevin. I think the writing style switches to first person in this chapter. There's a lot of the use of the word I.
And you're not talking about Genly I.
No, I mean like the letter I used as a pronoun as opposed to you don't see it outside of dialogue.
What, Josh, used as a pronoun? What is this? Genly DEI?
Oh, got him.
Anyway.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I don't. Sorry, it was.
The writing style changes.
Yeah, the writing style changes, and it was interesting seeing his journey and how much more difficult it was compared to Genly's. During like parallel time frames, I think Genly stays in Karhide for like a month or two, and before getting on that caravan to head out to the meet the Farseers or foretellers.
Yeah,
and. This is like immediately from where chapter 4 leaves off, or like midway through chapter 4, and it just describes him going off to just walking to try to get out of Karhide before it becomes open season on him. Mm-hmm. Meets his ex, who wants to go with him, but it just I don't know. I don't know if this would be what's the word that they use for court politics?
Shifgrathor?
Shifgrathor. I've been kind of equating that to honor, like honor system.
Yeah.
Or chivalry, Bushido, that kind of like that level of code of conduct. So I don't know if this is Shifgrathor with Estrevin like refusing his ex to go with him. But you see like some of his past coming out here. You see some of his how it's actually affecting him, some of his regrets. But he refuses to allow his ex to come with him, ends up stealing a boat because things are moving so quickly he just can't get legal passage on a other ship or even asylum on like a ship from another country. And it turns out when he's at the docks that he figures out like, oh, he's already being pursued. And it was interesting seeing that political development, I guess. And it seems to indicate that maybe someone is working behind the scenes to make sure he dies, and which may be an indication that Gethin maybe isn't as... It's hard to say utopian or innocent for Winter, for Gethin, because it definitely is not. But I mean, like, the idea that war and murder, no, not murder, like the death penalty doesn't exist, kind of stuff. Like, on paper it doesn't, but the human nature behind it, the politics and the jockeying for position, that still definitely exists in the background, and I think we're seeing that with the assassins or bounty hunters or whatever the hell are going after Estraven as he's rowing himself out into a frozen sea.
Yeah.
And then gets shot by their sonic disruptor cannons or whatever the fuck that they have, which was an interesting weapon, but apparently at the range he was at only just causes nausea and mild paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes into, like, save myself body mode and manages to make it somehow to getting picked up by another country and brought to a hospital. So I don't remember much about the conversation after that when he is able to meet his contact in this country. But it was definitely interesting seeing the difference between Karhide and Orangerin, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Mm-hmm. Orange juice.
Where Orangerin feels more, I don't want to say democratic, but more like bureaucratic than a monarchy.
Yeah.
It feels like there's not a king. It feels like it's
Yeah, I think they say it's run by 33 people, ultimately.
Yeah, so it's probably some representative form of government. We'll have to wait and see if we learn more about that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like, before we get to the conversation, some of the things you mentioned, like about Estraven's past, the whole thing, like he has a child with Ash, and yes, it's like Estraven doesn't want them to come along, even though Ash is offering, and it's like, I think some of that is whatever history they have, and some of it is, anyone who helps him is basically a marked, right? Yeah. But then we also get this whole thing of, like, I guess there's like a history with his brother where Estraven says something like, the only vow I ever broke, was like unspoken to one man, and I could never say it to them, and just afterwards, I took a note down because he says that, just paraphrasing, but he says, my brother's shadow followed me. And it just feels a lot like this parable or whatever from the second chapter of the two brothers in Kemmering. And it's like, is there some sort of, dark, haunted past with Estraven's brother that informs his character or is going to become more important to his character?
I don't know if it's actually a biological brother. I read that as, like, brother in arms.
Well, we gotta think to the parable that we read earlier in the book.
Yeah, no, the parable's a great connection there. I just, when I was reading it, I'm saying I just didn't connect it as a biological brother. I don't think.
Right.
Again, it's been 2 weeks.
We'll see.
And was I gonna say anything else? No. Let's get to the conversation. Let's
that's really the meat of the meat of the chapter.
Yeah.
Because at first I was kind of wondering, like, why these two even pick up Estraven. It's like, I understand everything up to that point. Estraven is in exile, and even people who know who he is, it's kind of just like, well, it doesn't matter. You're stripped of your rank and your title, and you gotta fucking cut ice or whatever the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, well, they have, like, I mean, I bet they think he has valuable insight into how Karhide works and strategy and all that. So I don't think it's too out of the realm of possibility that they would pluck him out.
No, yeah, I think it becomes more clear as they have the conversation.
Yeah.
I guess it's like it was more like at first I was wondering, and then as they like get into these ideas, yeah, I think that feels implied. I mean, really, there's this idea that on page 89, Estraven, it says, will the great continent hold 2 Orgorians? And so there's kind of this idea that, like,
the power struggle.
Yes, it's a power struggle, but I think even more so, there's the potential for war to be invented for the first time in Gethin's history.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, I think that there's sort of this idea within the story maybe being explored through Gethin where it's like, what was the first war? Like, how did that start? You know, if war feels like this inevitable constant as a part of human nature, but I think some of what's happening here is like, well, there was a first one, depending on how you look at it or how you want to define it. And the pieces are in place where there are characters recognizing that the first war in all of Gethin's history may be about to break out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this it's almost as much of an existential threat as like Genly, you know, coming from another world, which they also grapple with here. But like this is beyond the murder and the forays and whatever. It's like even just that Estraven is like asking this question is somewhere between like blasphemy and extreme insight that other characters, I think, like even the concept of war doesn't really exist within the minds of many of the characters. And so just that Estraven is aware of the question and is asking it, I think kind of speaks to his intelligence, where he realizes like this thing could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's all wrapped together with the question of Genly and the Ecumen, and I mean, potentially there's discussion too of like, if we accept this, there will not be borders between us anymore. Essentially, like we just have to be Gethin, at that point, you know, and so I don't know. There's like the thought, like, oh well, could this, pushing this, could that be our salvation? Will this stop war? Will this? Do we have to get through this first? Can we prevent it so we can have a more prosperous future? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think those two questions are in Estraven's mind are wrapped together.
Yeah, definitely. And this was like the end of this chapter was the first time where it was like, oh, I think I finally see what the plot is of the book.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like Estraven lays those two things out, like you're saying, Connor. He says, if you should follow the envoy a little way, he might show you a way out of the Synoth Valley, out of the evil course we're caught in. And then, yeah, like it goes into everything else from there. But, like, it is really interesting. Like, it makes me appreciate how much time and subtlety Ursula K. Le Guin has put into, like, building the foundation for this moment. Because, you know, even in the first chapter, we get Estraven talking about the Synoth Valley and how this leads into his exile. And, you know, obviously there's a lot going on. I won't run through all of it, but, like, you know, the Synoth Valley is sort of being representative of this conflict or this tension between these two nations. And then, like, Genly's appearance as, like, endangering or threatening the power of the king of Karhide, and Tybe now being like the hand of the king or whatever, and whispering in the king's ear. The king's already a little nuts, but then you have Tybe there who's like very clearly pulling the strings, and And I think Estraven kind of hints at like maybe trying to rule the planet itself, like and so yeah, it almost feels like Estraven is like, okay, so the only thing I was doing was relocating farmers or whatever before, but that's not going to stop anything. I think Estraven sees Genly as like the last Hail Mary that could potentially stop, war from breaking out on Gethin for the first time. It's like if all the borders melt away and we have to be united in the face of like the void, then the concept of war would melt away as well before it ever is unleashed. And so there's like this crazy inception point where it's like Estraven's realizing like either all of the planet will be united in solidarity and we can explore the cosmos together, or war will break out and you can never ever go back from that.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. Yeah, they're standing at the precipice right now. And whatever happens will change the course of their history forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is pretty big.
Yeah, no, it's a big. It's it's a big challenge, and I think obviously like going around to important figures are saying, oh, there's an alien that I know that he has this offer on the table for us. I think it could be good for us. He's actually in outer space, he's a pervert.
Yep.
It's obviously anybody would be skeptical, but even to the leaders on Orgerin, Estraven is a stand-up guy. They know that he has as a strong moral character, and I think the phrase was like he puts puts Carhide over the king or whatever, or Gethin over Carhide. Like he really feels strongly about doing the right thing, not just doing what's right for the leader. So that says a lot about him, because I mean, up to this point, obviously we know he is kind of following his heart or his morals, but he does feel like a failure. He feels like he's failed. He feels like he's the cause of this failure. But this is just kind of a confirmation of, oh, this is actually who this guy is. That I think we haven't gotten until this point, from like a third party perspective. So I think that's an important part of understanding his character as well. And from there, who knows where is it going to go? I don't know.
Last thing I wanted to say, Josh had mentioned Shifgrathor just a little earlier, and I just thought this discussion was funny because at least two separate times, the two characters talking with Estraven are like, I wave Shifgrathor. Just give me a fucking answer. Like,
yeah.
And, I didn't realize that you could just do that. Like, it feels like, to me, it felt kind of weird to like call time out, on Shifgrathor. Yeah, and it's kind of like they're like a whole bunch of like 10-year-olds playing outside at recess where they're like, no, stop, no more, come on, time out, no more Shifgrathor, man.
Stop talking about this bullshit. Let's get back to the reading.
Yeah, stop making jokes about the current hellscape
of the world. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about a book.
Like, I just thought it was because even like the other members of royalty or rulership, they're like, Estraven, can you just like fucking talk like a regular fucking person?
Yeah, exactly.
Once,
I know.
Please. So apparently, as important as Shifgrathor is, apparently if you just say I wave it, people will just tell you whatever you want.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they can speak without the veil of manners or whatever bureaucratic bullshit.
That's what Genly needs, because Genly keeps saying he's confused about it.
Really, he just needs to say yes. Yeah, he says just wave shift Cthor. Tell me like it is.
He should just start every conversation with "I wave shift Cthor," and then just done.
Absolutely, yeah, he should. Maybe he'll learn that at some point. Hopefully, for his sake.
Maybe. Well, that's all I wanted to mention about this chapter. Is there anything else we wanted to add or speculate wildly on before we wrap up here?
No. I not that I have. I was talking with Connor a bit about something in the opening, the introduction, about some minor spoiler that I came across reading it. But otherwise, I don't really have any predictions of what's coming.
That's why you don't read the introduction.
Well, fuck you.
I skipped it. I didn't read it because they always do that. They always do that.
Yeah, well, I had no context for it, and we'll see. I still don't have context for it.
Yeah, but it's kind of making a bit more sense now, maybe.
Yeah, and I was able to talk to Connor about it because he's read the book so far. So,
well, it's fine. I just mean like as a rule of thumb. Like I always skip those because a lot of times they do. It'll be like it's the 50th anniversary edition. They'll be like, "Wow, once this happens in the book, people really had to think about it." And it's like, well, what the fuck, dude? Like. Let me read the fucking book. Put this at the end.
They assume everyone that's buying the anniversary edition has already read it and is just buying this as like a commemorative keepsake or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to be wary, but whatever. That's it.
Yep, I know.
Well, is that it, folks? Are we really done with the discussion?
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm just excited to see. It
took us 2 hours.
This chapter ends with Estraven talking to the other two, and he's like, I could keep telling you all about this Genly guy, but why don't you just invite him here yourself? And they're like, you know what? Might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
So
we'll consider it.
We just may be getting some converging plot lines.
Yeah, maybe so.
Perhaps reconverging.
Estraven Genly reunion.
Mm-hmm. And maybe even Estraven Genly Fax love triangle.
Maybe so. Yeah, put that on your bingo card.
I'm going to say Fax probably disappears after halfway through the next chapter.
I think Fax is going to be important, but we'll see.
Well, we will see next time. All right, folks. Thank you for
be sooner than you think.
Yes.
Maybe.
Oh.
Maybe. Yes. No. Maybe so.
Wrap up, boys. 1 second.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, folks. And or watching. You can follow us on social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Chapter Chumps. If you want, you can leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts and a 5-star rating on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That would be just swell. You can email us at chapterchumpspod@gmail.com. Your thoughts on the book or your thoughts on the podcast. We would love to hear from you. Next episode we'll be talking about chapters
7 and 8.
Chapters 7 and 8. So that should be sometime next week. We should be talking about those bad boys.
Hopefully, unless more bullshit happens in our lives.
Unless more bullshit happens in our
lives specifically, and not beyond them.
But most importantly, folks, until next time.
My oven works. It's all good.
Hell yeah, buddy. Congratulations. All right. Recording stopped. And time to end the stream, folks. Thanks for watching.